And hello everyone, my name's Aaron. Thanks for joining me here today. We're going to be taking a look and upgrading the Tyranid Swarm pre-constructed deck from the new Warhammer 40k decks that just came out. Before we get started though, I kind of have a bone to pick just a little bit. So I was just kind of looking through the deck list and just kind of getting an idea of what cards are going to go where. Believe it or not, I have some structure, even though it doesn't show on camera. But I've seen a lot of calls to check your 40k decks, and I can absolutely abide by that because when I counted the lands out, and I haven't played this deck, I sleeved it up, gave it to a friend, and they played it, and they got flooded both times, and I thought that was weird. But you know, flooding happens. But when I was doing the land count, it was like 41 lands, and I'm like, that's a really absurdly high land count for a pre-constructed deck. That's especially like I think only AC of Dire Straits had like maybe 40 plus lands in it. So I thought that was weird, so I pulled up a deck list and it's supposed to be 39. So I'm like, okay, I'm counting 40 lands. I counted my lands a whole bunch of times. So yeah, the long story short here is I'm missing 2 cards. So the deck list advertises 8 forests and I have 10. I have 10 of these forests. And the 2 cards I am missing are Inspiring Call and Aetherize. So missing card draw and a board wipe. And those are kind of important cards to have in a precon. And that kind of bummed me out. So I filled out my ticket with Wizard of the Coast support. You know, I've had like Secret Layers come in damaged, and they eventually send you your card and you'll get it at some point, but it's not going to be anytime soon, and I didn't have to send anything back because my Flibblethip totally lost, came in damaged, and it took them like maybe 6 to 8 weeks to replace it, which is a long time to wait, and thankfully like I wasn't like waiting on that card for anything specific, so it just kind of came along. But this one bums me out because this is a product off the shelf, and I've seen a lot of people like showing up with doubles, so I kind of like, when I first got the deck, I kind of thumbed through it real quick just to be like, okay, do I see any doubles of anything? And I thought I was fine until I literally was prepping for this video, and I noticed that I had lands, had the 10 forests, and 41 lands didn't read right, and that was correct. But we're going to get into the deck tech here. Just know that I don't have those 2 cards, and I couldn't tell you if they're going to stay in the deck or not because I don't know what we're adding to, or I don't know what's getting into the deck. I don't know what's going out of the deck. We're going to kind of decide on the fly. This is my upgrade process as is, and we're going to see how it goes. But I definitely am going to cut the lands down. Even if it was 39, I think I would have cut down to 38 anyway, so it's kind of a bummer that, you know, that's going to be real easy cuts, and I'm cutting a board wipe and card draw, which I would probably keep because, and I have copies of those cards. I have Aetherize and I have Inspiring Call. They're not particularly expensive cards, but so I might just, I don't know, I'm going to move without them for the time being. But yeah, I am kind of going into this a little bummed out for sure that I'm missing those cards. So hopefully my ticket gets responded to pretty fast, even though I think it's not going to be fast. So many people have their Warhammer decks jacked up out of the box, and significantly worse than mine. I have to go check my Imperium a Man and Chaos deck while I'm at it, because it sounds stupid to say I didn't know it could happen to me, but I thumbed through it to check if it was fine. I didn't have doubles. I was literally missing cards. I guess you can say I had doubles of Forest, the card you're legally, but at least the deck was commander legal out of the box, right? There wasn't doubles of cards that were named or anything like that. But we're going to go through this deck real quick. First, I have everything kind of in piles. I have my creatures, I have my lands, artifacts, enchantments, and spells. I put instants and sorceries together because there's still a few of them. And we're going to kind of go over the cards that I have a fat stack of cards right here underneath the Swarm Lord, who's going to be my lead singer for this deck. We're going to keep the Swarm Lord. I think Magus Lucea Kane kind of is pulling the deck in a different direction to kind of be more X spells. And that seems like it'll be the better deck and probably a lot of fun. but kind of its own deck. So I'm going to be leaning towards the 1/1 counters over the X spell synergies, so a lot of those cards are going to go out. I don't have as many limitations that I put on myself for the Necrons upgrade that I did. If you want to see it, it's on my channel. So I just try to put in, just keep the creature count high. So out of the box, the creature count is 36. So I want to push that to maybe 40, maybe even higher, because it'll be pretty easy. And then just one thing that I noticed from playing against this deck, I haven't played it myself, but the conditional card draw Swarm Lord's not enough, so the deck needs to be heavier in counters, and it can afford just to have a couple of blue staples and things like that to be able to help it out. It sucks not having a board wipe, because Aetherize is the board wipe, and I don't have it, and I don't have any spare Cyclonic Rifts or anything like that. So first, we're going to go over the cards that we are adding. So the first order of business is this is 3 colors, and I can't stand 3-color precons mana bases, to be very honest. So we're going to upgrade some lands. We're going to throw some fetch lands in there. We just have the 3-teamer fetch lands. I know legally you can have as many fetch lands as you want, but I try not to put off-color fetch lands in there. I try to spread my fetch lands as thin as possible. I have some shock lands, because you need those. If you got fetch lands, then you want to be able to get your shock lands. I have the MDFCs for teamer colors. I know some people are not particularly high on these cards, but I think they're neat, and I'm never mad to have them. And you can always just easily sub a basic for them and play it as you need it. We have our Triome. Got fetch lands. These Triomes, they forest, island, mountain, and has all the types on it. And then just a couple of extra support lands I had in these colors. I could probably find more, but I feel like this is enough to get the mana base up and running. So I'm leaning towards 1/1 counters, so a lot of the cards that kind of care about X spells matters might be getting cut out of the deck. So I want to focus in on counters as much as possible, so a lot of the creatures I'm adding, almost all of them, I believe, care about 1/1 counters. So we have Deep Glow Skate. When it enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counters on any number of target permanents. We have Beast Whisperer, so this is just card draw. And I don't know if I like Beast Whisperer in here just for the flavor fail of just having a elf in here. We have Verdurous Geared Hulk. It's trample, and when it enters the battlefield, put 4 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. I'm not going to read all that text because it is a lot, but basically what it does is it doubles any counters you put onto your permanents, including planeswalkers, including infect, and anytime your opponents want to put counters on their stuff, it cuts it in half, rounded down. So if they're putting 1 counter on something, they're putting no counters on it. Absolutely baller of a card. I have an entire commander deck based around Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. It's one of my favorite decks, and I will cover it on this channel. So we have the Gruul Friends, Halana and Elena. I'm against this card a little bit. Just 1, it's a flavor fail, but 2, I really like the black and white art, but I used all of those. I bought like 4 of them, and they're all in decks, and this is the only one I had left in my binder. But at the beginning of combat on your turn, they put X 1/1 counters on another target creature, and our commander cares about things with counters on it. This is a very good card in this deck. It also gives things haste. We have Tanzanir Quandrix as flying trample, and when it enters the battlefield, double the number of 1/1 counters on target creature you control. The Swarm Lord just automatically, the first time you cast Swarm Lord, comes in with 1 counter, or excuse me, 2 counters, which is nuts. And it comes in for 2 counters for every time you've cast it, so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And something like Tanzanir Quandrix is going to help, help Swarm Lord get bigger, help a lot of the other creatures in this deck get bigger because it cares about 1/1 counters. And you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn. So that's probably not going to be really relevant a lot of the time. Swarm Lord's a 5/5. Quandrix is a 4/4, but, who knows. So we have Vorel of the Hull Clade, and it has, for a Simic, you can tap it. double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. So basically, what we're going to be doing with this is just doubling counters. We have Fathom Mage, so this is card draw. It has Evolve. When a 1/1 counter is put on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. And the cool thing about Fathom Mage is if you could put counters on Fathom Mage outside of its Evolve trigger, then you also draw cards. Like I have this in my Atraxa deck, so whenever you proliferate Fathom Mage, it's just getting more and more counters, and you're getting a lot of cards. And we like drawing cards, we like counters. This seems like an obvious card. Master Biomancer. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of additional 1/1 counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power and I don't know why I stopped being able to read right there. Additional 1/1 counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power and as a mutant in addition to its other types. So that's not really going to be relevant that it comes in as a mutant. That's kind of a flavor win. But we're putting counters on it. This card makes no sense in this deck, but I don't have a place to put King Ghidorah in there, and it's rotting in my binder. So I figured maybe we can see if we can have some fun on it. It has Mutate, and it costs 6 mana value. And it has Flying and Trample, and whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand. So it's kind of a pseudo Cascade, but not quite. It's not actually not Cascade at all because it's put on the battlefield, but you get to cheat something in, and it's guaranteeing a non-land permanent. We'll see if we have space for King Ghidorah. It doesn't really do squat in this deck, but I like mutating on things, especially things with counters, and these are the colors to be able to do that in. And I guess King Ghidorah is a Tyranid? No, he's a big monster. It's more of a flavor fit than Beast Whisperer in here for sure. So we have some removal. I just noticed this deck is light on removal. They gave all the removal to the Chaos deck for sure. So just a couple of just order of business type removal cards. So we have Chaos Warp. We have Beast Within. So we have Return to the Wild Speaker. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, and then non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. So I'm aware there's a couple of Gene Stealers in here, and the Gene Stealers carry the human subtyping. They might be forced out. We'll see how it goes, but this could be a trample through effect. It can be card draw. It's a very flexible card, and we don't really have a lot of humans in here. So just Trap Essence, mostly because this is from my personal card from back in the, I believe it's Khans of Tarkir pre-release. I've had this card for forever, and I sure didn't have a Teamer deck, but it's for Teamer. You can counter target creature spell and then put 2 1/1 counters on up to one target creature. So it's a little removal. It's a counter spell. It counters creatures. Everyone's commander is a creature on the stack, with the exception of the Planeswalker one, I guess. So not everyone's. That was a stupid thing for me to say. But yeah, just counter target creature spell, put some counters on it. We have Deflecting Swat. I don't know how important protecting Swarmlord is in this deck, because Swarmlord is kind of okay with dying because it comes back bigger and badder and madder and nastier every single time. So I'm not particularly sure that this makes it in. But it's a card I have, and it's a way to protect it. We have Worldly Tutor. This is another, very spiky card. Go tutor, go grab what you need. But the problem with tutors, at least my problem with tutors, is I like to have a card in mind when I put a tutor in a deck of just like this tutor 70 to 80% of the time. It's usually grabbing this. I'd have no clue what Worldly Tutor would grab in this deck. I'm not familiar with this deck. I haven't played it yet. I played against it, but I don't really know what I'm getting, and if I really don't know what I'm getting, then I'd rather just have card draw. And speaking of card draw, we have Guardian Project. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. Guess what? This is the game of Commander where you only allowed one of. So this basically in Commander effectively says when a creature enters the battlefield, when a non-token creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's what this card really says. And it rewards you for playing creatures. And this deck has a lot of creatures. It has 36, and we're looking to go up on that number for sure. We have Unnatural Growth, a card from Midnight Hunt. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. So basically just a way of finishing the game and having really good combat steps, because this happens on everyone's combat step. And it's just going to be a way to just beat through and do some big damage and go real wide with this deck and do some damage. So this is going to be one of our ways of winning. The 4 green pips might be a little hard to cast. I don't think it'll be super hard to cast, but we'll see how it goes. This deck leans very heavily on green, so we might be okay. Bear Umbra is kind of a maybe. It's just enchant creature. It gets +2/+2 when it attacks. Untap all lands you control. So it just... I don't have any particular combos or anything in mind with this card. It's just kind of good value, and Swarm Lord's going to get pretty big. That's kind of my idea in here, of just enchanting Swarm Lord. But this also might just be making Swarm Lord a big removal magnet, especially when it becomes a 2-for-1. So we have Unbound Flourishing. Whenever you cast a permanent spell with a mana cost that contains X, double the value of X, and when you cast an instant or sorcery or spell or activate an ability, if that spell's mana cost or ability activation costs X, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for this copy. This card got expensive out of nowhere, probably because of the Tyranids deck. This is a big maybe. I kind of put it in the pile because there's a lot of cards in this deck that care about X in their mana value, but we're focusing on the 1/1 counters, and a lot of those Ravenous cards kind of care, but I feel like this would be more suited for Magnus Lucea Kane if she was in the command zone. So we're just going to put maybe. It was just a card to think about. So we have Hadana's Climb. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then if that creature has 3 or more 1/1 counters on it, transform Hadana's Climb. And when you transform it, it becomes Winged Temple of Orstaka. And you get to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And then for 1 in Simic, target creature you control gets flying and gets +X/+X, where X is his power. So in my head, this is just a way to just clock someone to death with the Swarm Lord. You know, they killed Swarm Lord a whole bunch of times. It comes back. It's a 14/14 or whatever with all our counter synergies, and then the Swarm Lord comes in, and we get it real big, and then just one-shot someone with a flying Swarm Lord, and that seems pretty funny to me. So this seems like a easy card to slam in here. We have Ranger class. So level 1, you get a 2/2 Wolf. Level 2, you get to put a 1/1 counter on target attacking creature. And then level 3, you may look at the top card of your library. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So we're looking to get a high creature count in this deck anyway. We have fetch lands to help manipulate the top deck if it's not a creature. Not a ton of top deck manipulation, but it's mostly there because we want to be able to just attack and reward our attack and get those 1/1 counters. We have Sarkhan's Unsealing. So this is just kind of a reward for playing big dumb creatures in this deck. It's all about playing big dumb creatures, but whenever you cast a creature spell with 4, 5, or 6, it deals 4 damage to any target, and whenever you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, it does 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. So this is like when you're dropping 7 drops and a lot of those X spells, you know, you'll be able to you'll be able to get that pretty easily and regularly in this deck, and then just do 4 damage like that. This card can maybe be a problem. And so we have Kindred Discovery. So this is kind of part of our card draw package. And I know obviously the only Tyranids in this deck, or in Magic the Gathering, the game, are in this deck. So thankfully the 2 cards I was missing were not Tyranids. So this is kind of a maybe, but you choose a creature type, and that would be Tyranids, and whenever a creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. So we have Fight Rigging. Hideaway 5, so you get to dig 5, put 1 spell, and exile it underneath this, and when at the beginning of your combat, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the exile card without paying its mana cost, so you get to just cast a card for free. So you would just look at the top 5 cards of your library, whatever's the biggest, fattest, most value you could put in there. It's going to be pretty easy to get the requirements to cast that card. And then even when that's done, this is just every combat just putting a 1/1 counter on our guys. And this deck cares about having 1/1 counters on it, especially because specifically our commander cares. So now we have Rhystic Study. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. This is a boring, safe card, but we want card advantage, and we want to be able to draw cards. We got to make sure we're drawing our beasts. It's a staple of the format. Hunter's Prowess is a card that I'm like, I put it in the pile, and I was just like, I don't know, maybe, and I'm kind of second guessing it, but we'll see. Until end of turn, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. So I guess the idea was to get the Swarm Lord pretty big and then give it trample, because the Swarm Lord's kind of a vanilla creature. It doesn't really have anything. It just comes in with a lot of counters, and then it doesn't have like trample or death touch or menace or anything like that. So I guess this is an idea of just like, okay, I could put it on the Swarm Lord and hit somebody and draw a whole bunch of cards. So we'll see. We have blue, so you know I'm not particularly worried about card draw. This is kind of a mono green beat stick card draw card. We have Triumph of the Hordes. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1, and they gain trample and they gain infect. So this is another seal the deal type card, and especially in a deck that cares about counters. So even if you don't kill somebody with Triumph of the Hordes, you can finish them off with the Deep Glow Skate and double the infect counters. Actually, does it work like that? On any number of target permanents. I don't know if a player is a permanent. I don't know if you can do that, and I don't have time to go bother Judge Chat right now, so I'll do it after this is done. But yeah, just turning sideways, beaten face. And here we have the Ozolith. So whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all those counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. If you're playing a counter strategy, any sort of 1/1 counter strategy deck, you want the Ozolith. You want to keep your counters. You want to make sure, like, if you dump all those counters onto your creatures, you want to be able to get them back. And then the fun part about this is that it has a combo with Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider, because Vorinclex sees the counters go off of Ozolith onto another dude, and then those counters double. And then if that creature dies and it goes back to the Ozolith, it doubles again. It's basically just gets absolutely out of control. And of course, our final card. This is a free gimme in this card. We have the Great Henge gimme in this deck. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So if you have cast the Swarm Lord once, this is a 2-mana card. And it comes in, you can add 2 mana, you gain 2 life, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. So it's more card draw, it's more ramp, it's more counters. It does everything that this deck already wants to do. So those are the cards we are thinking about adding. So these the lands are going to be a pretty easy process of upgrading. So we're just going to kind of cock those to the side a little bit. And now we're going to kind of go through the deck list one at a time. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm missing 2 cards. I'm missing Inspiring Call. I am missing Aetherize. And I don't have better cards to replace them. Not to say I don't. I don't like. I would put Cyclonic Rift in this deck if I had it. I don't. I could probably take Cyclonic Rift out of another deck if I really wanted to, but it's also a card that I'm like trying to avoid putting into decks because it comes with its own stigma. So I'm going to kind of put these cards into a maybe pile. And these are just the lands. I'm going to kind of put these cards into maybe piles, and then once they're in the maybe piles, that's where we're going to pick like what we want to keep, what we don't want to keep, or any cards I think objectively bad. We could just say immediately no. But I am trying to preserve the flavor of this deck, so trying to keep it as Tyranid as possible, and just helping it do what it wants to do out of the box more consistently, a little stronger, with better mana for sure. So Maggot's Lucea Kane is going to be a maybe, because at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Okay, so she at least just lets you put counters on it, so she helps us with that synergy, and this deck wants that. And then you can tap her to add 2 colorless, and when you cast a spell, so at the end of the day, she's still ramp. She's a 4-mana Soul Ring, and there's nothing particularly stopping you from There's nothing really stopping you from using that mana, and you just don't get the benefit of the X spell, but you can also do the Ravenous stuff. Copy that spell, everybody. So she seems like she would be an insanely strong. Also, buy real sleeves, people. I have these crappy Pokemon sleeves that I threw on there, and this one just ripped while I was shuffling it. Okay, Magus Lucea Kane. You know what? We're gonna keep her. Because I thought that double colorless mana was specifically only for X spells, but we can still use it for whatever. So she gives us counters. She is a ramp piece. That is fine. Old-Eyed One. It's a 6-drop. Trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Enters the battlefield. Create a 5/5 green Tyranid creature token. At your pre-combat main phase, you may discard 2 cards and return it from your graveyard to your hand. That doesn't seem particularly great, discarding 2 cards to just get a beater. But I like this because it's giving creatures trample, and Swarm Lord gets real big and absolutely needs trample. So I'm going to say this is a maybe, or this is a keep. Atlian Jackal has trample haste, and when deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. I was trying not to affect the ramp pieces in this deck too much, but it has to connect. It has trample, it has haste. It can get real big with counters. This is going to be our first maybe. Alright, so we have Tyranid, Harridan, Flying, Ward 4, Shrieking Gargoyles. When Tyranid, Harridan, or another Tyranid you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 blue Tyranid Gargoyle creature token with Flying. So I don't want to hurt my creature count. This isn't making tokens. Or excuse me, this isn't making counters. It's making tokens. It's rewarding us for hitting with Tyranids, which we definitely want to do. I'm going to say yes to this one. We're just going to keep that. Gargoyle Flock. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, create a 1/1 blue Tyranid Gargoyle creature token with Flying. So this also makes gargoyles. You know, flyers are relevant. And we definitely want to be able to keep that. Alright, so we have Gene Stealer Locust. When a creature attacks you, it gets -1, -0. And when they attack your opponent. So this card seems bad. This is a cool card if you were running like some sort of copy strategy, because once you start copying, like maybe like if you write a replication targeting this and you make 5 copies of it, then this seems like it might start being relevant, but we're going to put this in the maybe pile, even though it's leaning towards no. We have Lictor. Creature Tyranid with Flash. When it enters the battlefield, if a creature entered the battlefield under the opponent's control this turn, create a 3/3 green Tyranid warrior creature token with trample. So I had someone play this against me when I was playing Necrons. So they flashed this in, and I had biotransference on the field. And I told that person, I said, you are about to make a lot of 33s because I'm popping off this turn. This seems pretty good. It's an instant army, and if someone's making a lot of tokens one at a time, specifically like the way the Necron deck does, you're going to get a lot of value out of it. So this is Flash. This is Haste. Creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn have double strike. So this seems like a payoff for tokens. I discussed this. This seems like a really cool commander for decks that want it. I don't know if this is a deck that wants it. We're going to put this in the maybe pile. Gearson Starn, Kellamorph, Ward 2. Whenever another source you control deals exactly 1 damage to a permanent or player, Gearson Starn deals 2 damage to that permanent or player. This seems like it would be a super awesome deck. But I don't know if it... I mean, I know the answer. It does not do what we're wanting it to do right now. So Gearson Starn is going to go in the maybe pile. We have Toxicrane, Reach, Death Touch, and it's mana fixing, and we're playing 3 colors, and it's also mana hate. And we don't particularly have a lot or any utility lands, so there's almost no downside to playing this. It's not like, oh, we're turning off our own Urza Saga, we're turning off our own... you know, whatever card. None of that's particularly happening. Acolyte Hybrid. When it attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact. and if the artifact is destroyed, his controller draws a card. So, as I mentioned, I played against this deck, and I was playing Necrons, and I had to kill this thing as soon as possible. Because when you're playing Necrons and your entire deck is artifacts, this thing's just basically like blank anything on your board. And sure, I get to draw a card, but I want my things. It's a scary card, but it's also removal. And maybe my bias is coming out here, but this strikes me as a maybe. You know, it's cool and it's attacking, but it's not really pushing us towards what we want. So we have Nexos. Basic lands you control have tap to add 2 colorless. Spend this mana only on costs that contain X. So I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. Because we're focusing more on the counters than we are on the X spells. We're going to keep almost everything with Ravenous in this deck. But it's not the main focus of the deck. So like Ravenous is just going to be a small part of it. And that guy's really not going to particularly push us towards that. And then also I have a Gargos deck that this can find a home in. So it's not particularly going to see 0 play. It's a super sweet card. We have Venom Thrope, Flying, Death Touch, Hexproof. That's all it does. It is 1 short of Atraxa. 1 piece short of a full Atraxa, because 1 piece and 2 colors short. This is a good body. Actually, no, because Atraxa doesn't even have Hexproof. So this is a good body. You know what this would be good? Mutating a King Ghidorah on this. We're gonna put this on the maybe. If we end up keeping King Ghidorah, we're gonna keep that dude for sure. Screamer Killer, 5 and a red. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 5 or greater, it deals 5 damage to any target. We're gonna be doing that a lot. So yeah, lots of big beaters in here, like dealing damage, spreading it out. Gene Stealer Patriarch. When it attacks, put an infection counter on target creature defending player controls, and when a creature with an infection counter on it dies, you create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a Tyranid in addition to its other types. I love this card. I really, really do. But it's such a maybe if in this deck, because we're focusing on the 1/1 counters. And for the 1/1 counter strategy, this doesn't particularly do anything, and we need to follow it up, and we need a removal spell to be able to steal the thing. Excuse me, I have a scratch in my throat. Sorry, I should have muted my mic. I should have better... It pains me to put this in the maybe pile, and I don't like how many creatures we have in here. Because I want to keep the creature count up. I mentioned that earlier, so we might have to end up keeping some of that stuff. Yeah, but this is a maybe. We're focusing on 1/1 counters, and this isn't particularly... The thing it does is super sweet, but we don't know. So this is a Exocrine with Ravenous, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage, and X is equal to how much you pay for it. Yeah, so I'm almost going to keep all the Ravenous cards. Let's see. Horror Specs. Whenever another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on Horror Specs, and you can remove X counters and turn those counters into mana. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tear of Gone. Ravenous. When it deals combat damage to the player, create that many 1/1 green Tyranid creature tokens, and it has Trample. Seems pretty flexible. And then if Ravenous, X is equal to 5... So this would be a 7-drop, and you draw a card. So we're keeping a lot of the Ravenous. I like Ravenous just because like it can cantrip you, and it can be flexible. Geesh, this is XX green. It has Defender. When it enters the battlefield, search your library. Oh, this is that ramp card. Oh, this stays. Hierophant Biotitan. So as an additional cost to cast a spell, you may remove any number of 1/1 counters from among creatures you control. The spell costs 2 less for each counter removed this way. So specifically has to be 1/1 counters. Has Flying, Vigilance, Reach, Ward 2. Can't be blocked by creatures 2 or less. And is just a 12/12 body. This guy was on the battlefield, and he was definitely a problem. Like I mentioned before, I was playing Necrons, and I'm like, hey, you got anything with Flying or Reach? And someone's like, yo, I got a 12/12. And I'm like, yeah, no thanks. I will fly somewhere else. Melanthrope. Flying, scavenge the dead. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on Melanthrope for each card. Exile this. Oh yeah, land hate, or excuse me, graveyard hate. Getting counters, getting a payoff for it. Absolutely. Biophagus. Add 1 mana of any color. This mana is spent to cast a creature spell. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. Oh yes, no hesitations there. Termagant Swarm, it's Ravenous. When it dies, create a number of 1/1 green Tyranid creature tokens equal to Termagant Swarm's power. So yeah, we're getting tokens, getting rewards for going big. I'm about it. Aberrant, it has Ravenous. Trample, when it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. And it has Trample too? That seems pretty dope. I'm okay with that, yeah. Just blowing up artifacts for connecting on someone. Moloch. Ravenous. Terror from the Deep. When Moloch enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. And if that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Ooh, so hard exiling. And it's Ravenous. And it's a fight spell. I like that. Whenever Tygon Pime attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it and a 1/1 counter on up to 1 other attacking creature, and that creature can't be blocked this turn. So that's kind of smelly, especially with as big Swarmlord gets. You could just make Swarmlord just like a 15/15 unblockable. Yeah, I'm about it. Winged Hive Tyrant has flying haste. Other creatures you control with counters on them have flying and haste. Oh yeah, easy. Real easy. Giving everything flying for just having counters on it. Ravener, Flash, Ravenous, enters the battlefield. Target creature attacks target opponent this turn if able. So you effectively goad. No, because you choose the creature and the opponent. So I could just be like, hey, this creature is forced to attack this other person. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Ravenous, when Broodlord enters the battlefield, distribute X 1/1 counters among any number of other target creatures you control. Okay, so it just kind of spreads some counters around. But you don't get the Ravenous trigger if you... I would have to check a ruling on it, because if it comes in with 5 counters, it still enters the battlefield with those counters, then it's entered the battlefield effect triggers, and then I feel like you draw the card on that interaction. Not 100% sure. Another thing that I'll check the judge chats on, but I'm pretty sure it enters with it, and whatever check that says, hey, did you enter with these things, then draw a card, and then you can distribute them. Alright. Zoanthrope, Ravenous, Flying, Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, deal X damage to any target. X is equal to whatever you put into it, and if it has 5, that seems pretty cool, because this deck ramps real hard. Hormagaunt Horde, Ravenous. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2 and a green. If you do, return Hormagaunt Horde from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so I don't know how often we're going to be doing that, but it has Ravenous, it has counter synergy, it's a Tyranid. We want all those things. Tyranid Prime, evolve, and other creatures you control have evolve. So that's an easy gimme. Yep. Tyrant Guard, Ravenous, sacrifice it. Creatures you control with counters on them gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So you just sacrifice this thing, and you get to heroic intervention on a body. That seems nuts. The Red Terror, whenever a red source you control deals damage to 1 or more permanents and or players, put a 1/1 counter on the Red Terror. This seems really weak, especially for a legendary. And it specifically has to be a red source, and this deck leans heavily on green and Simic. Red's probably its least popular color. But I guess our commander is a red source. There's a lot of Gruul in here, and those are all red sources in here. This seems like a card, I'm going to keep it for now, but this seems like a card that, like, if in practice it doesn't pan out when I start playing this deck, probably be one of the first to go. But it's in the clear for now. We have Clamavus. Each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on it. So it's like a crazy anthem that seems like it'll be a lot of math to keep track of. Each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on it. So you're effectively doubling the effectiveness of counters on all your creatures, but without effectively doubling them. So that's an interesting card. And Pure Strain Gene Stealer. That sounds like a weed thing. Hey man, you ever hit that Pure Strain Gene Steal? Enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it, and when it attacks, you may remove a 1/1 counter, search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So, it's ramp. It comes in. It lets you do that twice. Maybe you can do this twice. You'll probably at least do it once. So at the very least, it's kind of like a Elvish Mystic, or not Elvish Mystic, but like a Wood Elves effect. Farhaven Elf. That's the one I was thinking of. So here's all the creatures we're keeping, or for now. We're going to go through the artifacts because there are not too many of those. As Icon of Ancestry enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type. Put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library. So this is kind of card draw. It's kind of an Anthem. It seems like a lot of work. It makes us choose Tyranid as a creature type, and that already pushes me away from it. And we have a lot more. I would rather have just card draw than this thing. So we're going to put this in the maybe pile. Arcane Stick gets ramp. That's not negotiable. Soul Ring is ramp. That's not negotiable. Goliath Truck. When Goliath Truck enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 counters on target attacking creature. Oh, when it attacks, not enters the battlefield. So when it attacks, you just put 2 counters on target attacking creature, and then it has crew 2. Yeah, it's a vehicle. It's an artifact, and we're not leaning towards that. Bone Sabers. When equipped creature attacks, put 4 1/1 counters on it and equip 3. This is probably you could probably put a more efficient card in here, but I feel like we got a hefty pile of cards in the maybe pile. I'm gonna keep this just because it's a cute card. It does dumb stuff, and I'm all about that. Here's a decisive card, Herald's Horn. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. I'm super against this card, even in tribal heavy decks, especially when you have blue. I'd rather just have hard card draw. I'd rather have anything else. And yeah, it's cool to get the 1 less to cast, especially when you have X spells, because that 1 is free. But yeah, I'm not too sold on Herald's Horn. Herald's Horn is a big maybe. Alright, so here we are. So now we are going on to the spells. We have Tyranid Invasion. Create a number of 3/3 green Tyranid warrior creatures with trample equal to the number of opponents you have. So it's just 4 mana, make 3. And if anything less than that, 9 power on the board for 4 mana. This card kind of sucks. They don't have counters or anything cool on them. This is going to be a maybe. Harrow is ramp. Ramp's not going anywhere. Cultivate is ramp. Ramp is not going anywhere. Starstorm deals X damage to each creature. So this is our other board wipe. And it has cycling 3. Yeah, we'll keep this. We'll keep that. That's the board wipe. Rampant Growth is ramp. Hull Breach. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or destroy target artifact and target enchantment for Gruul. We'll keep this. This is removal. It's not particularly good, but it's Warhammer branded. And I'm not mad at doing any of those things. Farseek. Explore. You may play an additional land this turn. So this is a ramp card, but I usually immediately take Explore out of any decks that I have. So Explore is going to go in the maybe pile because we can put something better in the spot of Explore. Shadow in the Warp is awesome. I need 14 copies of this card. The first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less, and whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell, it does 2 damage to that player. Yeah, this is a banger. Keeping. Death's Presence. Whenever a creature you control dies, put 1/1 X counters on target creature you control, where X is the power of the creature that died. This is a 6-mana enchantment that does a lot of stuff for 1/1 counters, but you know, we're kind of okay with it. Hardened Scales. If 1 or more 1/1 counters will be put onto that creature you control, that put that many +1 instead. This card is bonkers. I used to play this in cons. It's like, it got shockingly expensive over the years, but this is a really good, cool reprint, and we're focusing on it. It's some absolutely, you can't see it because the glare of my camera is garbage, but absolutely fantastic art. I love it so much. Yeah. We have Abundance. If you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land and reveal cards from the top of your library. Until you reveal a card of the chosen kind, put that card in your hand. Put all other cards revealed on it. So I guess you just draw what you need. If you're just like, hey, I need land, and you just... I'd rather take the hard card draw, to be honest. I'm going to put this in the maybe. I'm trying not to take these sagas out because they're all super sweet. It was really hard to keep the one in... specifically keeping the one in Necrons, because that deck wants just artifacts, and any enchantment clogs everything up. So you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If its mana cost contains X, it enters with a number of 1/1 counters equal to the number of lands you control, and then the other two is double the number of each kind of counter on target creature you control. This does everything we want, and it's only 5 mana, and it lets us cheat a big thing out. It is pretty dope. Bred for the Hunt, 1 in a Simic. Whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it deals damage to a player, you may draw a card. So yeah, we want that. Overgrowth, Enchant Land. Enchant Land is tapped for mana. Its controller adds an additional green. This is weird. So you enchant the land, and then you tap it. It adds an additional green in addition to its other type. So kind of a ramp card. We'll keep this. We don't want to mess with the ramp too much. And New Horizons. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and then Enchanted Land has add 2 mana of any color. So again, this is ramp. And it's enchanting lands. So here's our maybe pile. So let's do the first order of business here. I'm fixing these lands. So I kind of am going to sort them out. Because almost every single one, actually every single one of these land cards are going to go in here. So we have, I want to, these are all the non-basics. Okay. So the first order of business is just leaving the basics alone and taking a look at our, because like I said, we have 3 fetch lands. We have the things we absolutely want in are 3 fetch lands, 3 shock lands, 3 MDFCs, and our Triome. So let's see what we got. Game Trail is the one where you have to reveal a forest or a mountain. I'm kind of iffy on those. I like to keep the, I know Tri-Land. I have the Triome, but I like to have that as well. Exotic Orchid is a fine card. Evolving Wilds, we're putting real fetch lands in here, and this is usually the first thing to go. Command Tower obviously isn't going anywhere. Cinderglade is a fetch target. Cave of Temptation, sacrifice it, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature, activate it as a sorcery, and you get to filter it. I mean, if we're desperate for counters, we can do this. We'll keep it. Ash Barrens can go. Unclaimed Territory, choose a creature type, add 1 mana of any color. Yeah, it helps us with our mana fixing for Tyranids, even though we're adding some non-Tyranid creatures in here. I hate Lifelands. Why did I put these in there? Terramorphic Expanse. You know what? I'm going to keep the Temple lands. We're going to keep the Temple lands. We are going to take the Lifeland out. Path of Ancestry is an easy card to put in. Opal Palace is an interesting one, because if you filter it, you get to put counters on it. It has synergy with Swarm Lord. So here's the cards we're taking out. One right here. And I'm sure this is probably the wrong way to do a mana base, but let's get all the important stuff in there first. And then just start putting taking basics out. So we're going to keep all this. And we're just going to get in these cards. So let's get our shock lands in first. Next order of business is going to be our fetch lands. Particularly exciting to watch this. Okay, we've already taken out all the lands that we don't care about. And then one by one, we're going to go through and just start cutting down on basics. We're keeping the Scry lands, we're keeping Opal Palace, getting Ketria Triome in there, giving ourselves a little more flexibility. I could probably take that one card that's like Game Trail out. I could probably get away with taking Game Trail out, but you know, we'll see how it works in the long run. And that's the thing about 3-colored decks, is that, you know, the mana, the cost of fixing the mana in here always brings the value of the deck up. I'm pretty sure. I haven't priced it. I know some of these cards I have are expensive, but and particularly the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take 2 forests out because this precon came with an extra forest, with 2 extra forests. We're going to replace a forest for Fall Vale. And we're going to sit pretty at 38 lands. I think that's an adequate amount of lands for this deck. If anything, that might be just perfect. So I'm going to count these lands out and make sure I have 38. I think I have 39, and if anything, I'm going to go down another forest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, shoot. I mixed this in with my other cards. The joy of doing things in one take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. So yeah, 39 lands. 39 lands is what the precon's supposed to have. Ours came with 2 extra forests. Maybe 2 easy cards to knock out for the upgrade. And you know what? I'm going to take a mountain out instead of the forest because we're very heavy green. But our mana fixing is significantly better than it was before. Okay. So that order of business is done. With 38 lands, we have a lot of card draw to make up for the lower land count, even though like 38 is still a lot of lands. But we're not mad at drawing it. Drawing lands, we have a lot of ramp in here. We have a lot of basics still, even after taking a whole bunch out. So I'm going to take these cards now that I've thought about them, now that I've went through everything that we're seeing here. And we are going to sort this out. I think I mixed my maybe pile. No, I did not. So these are all the cards that I've labeled as maybe so far. These are what we're keeping. We're done with lands. Get some order in here. So I'm just going to kind of shuffle these into 2 things now that I've thought about it a little bit. So yes, we want the Deep Glow Skate. No, we don't care for that. Yeah, Divertus, Gearhulk, absolutely Devoran Klex. Halana and Elena make a lot of sense, but they're a flavor fail more than a synergy fail than anything else. Quandrix is fine, Vorel is fine, Fathom Mage is awesome. That maybe on Ghidorah, because it's just a stupid card that I want to put in here that I think is neat. We need removal. Card draw, this is some removal. Deflecting SWAT. Do we really care about protecting the Swarm Lord that much? And the answer is kind of no. I'm going to put this in the no pile. I'm going to put Worldly Tutor in the no. Guardian Project, yes. Unnatural Growth, yes. This, no. Now that I'm looking at the amount of Ravenous cards we have, there's only about maybe 10 or 12 in there, I believe. I didn't give an exact count, but Unbound Flourishing is not going to go in this deck. It would go in the Magnus Lucea Kane version of this deck. Haldena's Climb's coming. Ranger class is coming. Sarkons and Ceilings a maybe. Kindred Discoveries a maybe. Depending, because if we have to pick Tyranids, and we have, we're going to end up with at least 20 Tyranids, but is that enough to justify a card like Kindred Discovery? Fight Rigging is going to be yes. And again, we just have Ristic Study. Just put Ristic Study in your deck. deck is more efficient. It draws you cards. Hunter's Prowess is a no. Triumph of the Hordes is yes. 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 Okay. So I'm going to put these in the maybe pile. King Ghidorah is the king of the maybes. I'm going to count up how many cards I have here. So we have 21 cards we're looking to put into this deck, and our maybe pile consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 cards in the maybe pile. And we're not divorced from all these cards. It's not just going to be a clean swap. So this is where the cuts come in, and cutting, anyone who's done commander deck stuff knows that cuts are hard. Actually, and you know what, on the second thought, I'm going to demote Kindred Discovery to the no pile. So Atlan Jackal needs to connect, and it only finds basics. We just cut our basic cards down. We just took like a whole bunch of basics out of the deck in favor of real land cards. So this is going to continue being in the maybe. Genestealer the Locust is an easy drop. Death Leaper is going to be painful to take out because this card seems sweet, but not for what we're doing. Gearson's not really synergistic with our plan. Acolyte Hybrid, I'm pretty confident. Okay, the rule was Venom. If King Ghidorah stays, then Venomthrope stays. Because I just want to mutate on this thing, even though King Ghidorah already has flying. But it'll gain trample and death touch and hexproof. This is my problem making decks that I really want to do stupid stuff. We'll put that next to King Ghidorah. That's a 2-for-1 right there. Genestealer Patriarch is sweet, but not for this deck. Icon of Ancestry, Goliath Truck, Herald's Horn, Tyranid. Yeah, I mourn the loss of none of these cards, so I guess we have to start prioritizing stuff. So yes to Deep Glow Skate. Maybe to Verdurous Gearhulk, yes. Oh, Halana and Elena is a brutal cut because it works so well with our strategy. It is such a synergistic card for what we're doing in this deck. But they're just humans, and that turns my stomach putting humans in this sweet Tyranid deck. I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. Like, it is far more effective than Verdurous Gearhulk or Tanzanir Quandrix, and it's lower costed and does it every turn and gives them haste. It is so much better than both of those cards put together. But I'm going to maybe Quandrix. Vorel seems really good. Fathom Mate's really good. Biomancer's really good. Do we need all this removal? I would say yes to these two. Maybe on Return of the Wild Speaker. We have a couple of humans in here. I haven't double-checked my creatures, but there's a couple of humans in there. Universe forbid that I can't non-bow this because of some stupid Genestealer in my deck. Actually, do I have any humans in here? Did I keep... Yeah, like Biophagus is a human. Taking one card out because of one human. Oh, and Lucea Kane is a human as well. That is so not enough. That is so enough non-humans in here to justify this card. And it's a lot of card draw too. I just know that. I'm just thinking of the Nightmare Edge case, where Biophagus is our biggest creature, which it shouldn't be. We're playing the Swarm Lord. I don't believe the Swarm Lord is a human. Absolutely it is not. It is just a Tyranid. We'll put this in the maybe pile. I'm kind of thinking less about Trap S's. We're not really a counterspell deck, and it only counters creature spells. And the thing about countering creature spells is that, like, having a counter spell in your hand and not being able to stop, like, the Cyclonic Rift or the, any of the real cards that you need to be stopping. Like, sure, it stops a Craterhoof Behemoth, but, like a lot of the real problematic cards are not creatures, and this doesn't stop them. And we shouldn't really be afraid of other people's creature token, or other people's creatures, because we ourselves are a creature deck. So, like, I'm going to put this in the no. Guardian Project is a yes. Unnatural Growth seems like a yes. Helldown's Climb seems like a yes. Ranger's Class is a maybe. Honestly, Fight Rigging might be a maybe as well. The thing about Fight Rigging is that it does its thing once, and only once. And the thing it does is sweet, but once you do it, you'll never do it again unless someone bounces it or something like that. But it gives us counters. Ballistic Study gives us cards. Triumph of the Horde ends the game. The Ozolith is important. The Great Henge is important. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start swapping cards out. And locking in. Because I feel like everything that survived this pass is locked into this deck. So there's the Ozolith locked into the deck. Triumph of the Hordes. I keep thinking about my missing Aetherize and my missing Inspiring Call and how they would be faring up. I filled out the Wizards support ticket, and I'll expect to see those cards in 2 years from now. Okay. Yep, Herald's Horn. Yeah, Herald's Horn is a card that, like, it seems really good when it's doing what it needs to do, but unless you have, like, some sort of, like, aggressive top deck manipulation to always get advantage out of Herald's Horn, like, it's a card that I've played. It's a card that I've tried to make work. I've tried the Herald's Horn in every single tribal deck, and I'd much rather have just hard card draw than, like, I need to draw cards. Oops, this isn't what I need. Or even sometimes I don't even want to reveal the card. I don't want people knowing what I have. You know, keeping information closed. You know, because if you want the card, you have to reveal it. Gosh, Foreign Klex is going to be such a beast in this deck. So excited about that. Deep Glow Skate. Okay, so we have 2 more open slots and a bunch of cards. I was talking about wanting to go up on creature count, and I'm gonna do my creature count one more time just to make sure. I'm gonna put Helana and Elena in there because that card is very good, and I am an idiot for not putting it in here. I'm sure someone is probably screaming at me. And we're going to do Verdurous Gearhulk, because it just seems like a good body to house counters as well. It has Trample. It's an artifact. You're going to take LT and Jackal out for Verdurous Gearhulk. Okay. Now the question of Venom Thrope. Do we keep Venom Thrope? Because the Venom Thrope deal is it comes with 1 Ghidorah. Oh, but there's humans in the deck. And we said we don't particularly want that. Let's do our creature count. See where we're at. If anything, we'll just keep Venom Thrope and make King Ghidorah the official one other. Okay. So 7 creatures we added. Because I said I wanted to push it towards 40. So we're going to do our creature count right now. I'm sure someone smarter than me is probably able to just count creatures by going up and down and stuff like that. That's not me. Your boy is dumb. I count with my toes and my mouth open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. We have somehow broken even on creature count. Which is not terribly bad, because, you know, you usually want 30 creatures or up in a creature-heavy deck, and we have 36, and I was trying to push Let me take a look at these cards we're adding. Maybe there's something I can push out. Maybe some of these dumb ramp spells. We don't need no stinking ramp. We need creatures. Honestly, Bone Sabers is kind of stupid. I would much rather have a creature than Bone Sabers. And I don't really like enchant lands type spells, just because, I don't know, I feel like someone will blow that land up that you attach something to it. There's a lot of ramp in this deck already. So maybe we can go up 3 creatures. And that'll put us at 39. Alright, so some of y'all, someone, alright, creatures to the front. Someone's getting promoted. Not you. Not you guys. I think the right answer is going to be Quandrix for Bone Sabers, because honestly, Bone Sabers seems hella stupid, to be quite honest. And I just don't like these cards, and there's a lot of ramp in this deck, and I'm not particularly mad at how much ramp there is. You can accommodate for ramp by having a lot of card draw, then ramping into more. And we're just going to sub-ramp for ramp. We're going to keep Atelian Jackal. Maybe he'll do some stuff. Maybe he won't. And is there any other creature in this pile that I'm married to? King Ghidorah! Yes, I have humans in here. Yes, I didn't put Return of the Wild Speaker in because I said I don't want to target humans. But I like the stupidity of having King Ghidorah in this deck. So, I think we are done with upgrades for today. So I'm going to upload the list to Moxfield, and we're going to go through the cards that we added. Not re-added, sorry. Sorry, Venom Throat. Yeah, so let's go through the cards that we added. Anything new. It's pretty easy to suss those cards out. Because they don't have the obnoxious Universes Beyond triangle on the bottom. Didn't add as many creatures as I thought I would, but that's fine, because we don't, we're a Tyranids deck. We want to keep as many Tyranids in here as possible. These are the cards we added. And these are all Universe Beyond's triangles. I'm just still mad that my thing got jacked up. Yeah, we ended up adding more than I thought we would, but, like, a lot of it went into upgrading the land counts. And this is all basics. These are all... Yep, okay. So here are the cards we ended up adding. We added some lands, Rockfolk Vale, Rejuvenating Strings. We added some MDFC flip lands, all 3 that our colors allow us. We added Ketria Triome, Misty Rainforest, Wooded Foothill, Scalding Tard, Steam Vent, Stomping Ground, Breeding Pool. Those are lands. We fixed our mana base a little bit. And the big cards that we added, the Great Henge, the Ozolith, Triumph of the Hordes, Ristic Study, Helldawn's Climb, Unnatural Growth, Guardian Project, Beast Within, Chaos Warp, King Ghidorah, King of the Cosmos, Tanzania Quandrix, Halana and Elena Partners, Verdurous Gearhulk, Deep Glow Skate, Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, Vorel of the Hullclade, Fathom Mage, and Master Biomancer. So that's a wrap on upgrading Tyranid Swarm. This video ran significantly longer than I thought it would. Sorry, but not sorry. Thank you for joining me here on this adventure while we upgraded this pre-constructed deck. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully you enjoyed watching me make some horrific decisions and do some of the stupidest stuff ever. I really hope I get to cast King Ghidorah in a deck, in a game, because boy, I would love to, just because that's funny to me. But yeah. If you like this content, go ahead and comment any cards that you think I should add, or any high synergies. I don't really look at EDH Rec. I mostly look at my collection, because I don't like getting the urge to start buying stuff on TCG Player. Because I will. I'll just be like, oh, that's good. I need to add that. But yeah, I feel like I made this deck a lot better. Who knows? Maybe King Ghidorah is going to be the downfall of the Tyranid Swarm ever since they hired that dude. Who knows? But yeah, subscribe if you like this. I'm going to try to be a little more consistent with my uploading schedule, and a lot of the feedback and a lot of the engagement that I'm getting for a particularly small channel like I am right now. It means a lot. I like and enjoy talking to you people and you people. All right, let me get out of here before I say something stupid. You guys have a good day.